Yo, what's up everyone? We're here for chapter 98 of Mayonaka Hearttune. This week we have an interesting chapter title. It's called No Longer Need Any Cough Drops. We are officially off the school trip arc, and the broadcast club is suffering the consequences of it. Lemon Sensei is crashing out because she helped them kind of escape to go have a little fun at night, but Yamabuki and the girls end up getting caught, right? And the blame gets put on Lemon in the situation. Yeah, she's just kind of mad at them. I feel like it's not too often that we actually get to see supporting characters be decent, especially in like rom-com series. But Lemon, she seems like a really good character. And yeah, she's basically going and saying, you know, even though I am kind of mad, did you guys at least get to do what you wanted to do during the school trip? Right here, we get all of the girls having their little personal flashbacks on what happened with them during the school trip. And, you know, they're all blushing, a little flustered. And yeah, they're saying, yeah, I think we had a decent time. Iko in particular, she's saying, oh no, I really got caught up in the moment and did something crazy. And what's more on her mind is that Yamabuki has not yet given her a response to the confession that she gave, right? 2 chapters ago, she went and confessed her feelings because of her whole situation during the trip. But instead of getting her immediate response, she was like, don't tell me right now. I want things to stay as they are. And then there was no other time because the other girls showed up. So yeah, Yamabuki never got to give her closure on her confession. Right here, we get Nene and Rika just kind of teasing Iko. She's saying like, oh, something happened between the two of you, didn't it? And Iko's like, oh, no, nothing happened. But Rika goes and says, you big fat liar. Why is your face burning up then? This chapter, it was kind of Rika focused, if I'm going to be honest. She says, you big fat liar multiple times. But yeah, we'll get to there when we get to there. But yeah, basically they're just trying to get this information out of Iko. The girls want to know what went down. So there's some shenanigans going on. And eventually Lemon Sensei has to go to like the front office or whatever. And right as she's leaving, Yamabuki pops into the classroom and bumps into Iko. They have a little awkward moment. Iko is still flustered. You know, she doesn't know what to think, doesn't know how to interact with Yamabuki right now. She doesn't know how he feels because he has the stone cold demeanor to him. As we can see from readers, you know, he is not an omnipotent being. He does crack under pressure, but to the girls, he hasn't really shown any of his weakness, or they haven't really caught on to it all too much. So Yamabuki sees Iko and she's like crying, sniffling, whatever, runny nose. And he's like, oh, you have a runny nose? Your face is red too. Did you catch a cold? You need to suppress this sickness during the early stage before it develops into a fever. I'll give you some cough drops. You know, Iko goes and says, no, that's not what it is. It's about your answer. You know, Nene's like, oh, is this what I think it is? And Rika's like, yeah, probably so. And this is when Yamabuki goes and says, don't worry, I haven't forgotten. I won't give you a vague answer either. I've come here today to talk about something related to that. First of all, I'd like to retract my statement about your feelings being transient whims. You know, basically here, Yamabuki is just kind of saying that after some thinking about the girl's perspective and how he doesn't really vibe with how his sister views love or in romance, he thinks that he should take the girl's feelings more seriously and take them more into account with his decisions that he makes going forward. And that's what kind of makes this chapter very important to the story. To be honest, this chapter is very dialogue heavy, and I don't really want to go and read word for word every single dialogue that's going on. So if you haven't read this chapter, definitely go read it. But essentially the gist of it is that Yamabuki, he is not a, you know, your average rom-com protagonist where they're kind of just oblivious to the girls showing them attention. He sees that all 4 of the girls are at least somewhat into him. He doesn't know to what extent each of the girls are. I would say his persona is kind of objective driven. Like, he's very serious, kind of stoic, but you know, he does have his weak sides. He does show weakness in moments in time. But his whole reasoning for even getting involved with these girls is, hey, well, firstly, one of you guys sounds like Apollo, and that was like his first love, true love, whatever, and that's who he's looking for, right? And then after spending time with the girls, he wanted them to progress in their careers, achieve their goals, and part of doing so, part of helping them, you know, almost comes with the territory. He has to get closer to them, right? He's saying, right now, I can't devote any of my resources to love or romance. I want to help you guys succeed and make your dreams come true. I'm sorry, I can't go out with any of you at this point in time. Or what he's telling the girls as part of his reasoning for saying, like, there's gonna be no romance between us, is he is going to still try to get closer to them to help see their goals through, to help them succeed. But he goes and says, if anyone asks me to choose between dreams and romance, naturally, I'll pick dreams, right? So like what's happening here is he's kind of projecting this sense of duty, I would say, or sense of like objective, really. He set out to do something, right? He said he was gonna help them, and that's what he wants to do. He also goes and says that if for some reason your love doesn't fade away, the sparks of love that you have right now don't fade away, you can try to make me fall for you. But right now, nothing's gonna happen. Too long didn't read. Yamabuki is not going out with any of the girls. He is committed to that bit and presenting himself as a anchor for them. After his whole speech, we see him on a staircase. He looks a little tired out, and none other than Rika goes and finds him, right, and starts talking to him. They start talking about what happened earlier, and Rika goes and starts saying, oh, you're so obnoxiously pompous and egotistical. But then she goes and says, but that's just what you wanted us to think, right? As we can see, Rika, she can kind of see the softer side of Yamabuki. She can see through his facade. She says, I know your speech contained a lie. And she also says a mistake. Rika's trying to dig and get some information from him, or trying to get him to speak a little bit. But from what I understand is the mistake that he was saying during the speech was that he said that, oh, he's not in love with any of the girls, right? He can't go out with them. But the mistake there is that, or, you know, the discrepancy is that he actually is in love with one of them, because one of them is Apollo, right? He just doesn't know who it is. And then the second thing is that he is doing this whole thing, right? He is getting involved with the girls because of Apollo, right? That was his love. It wasn't his dream. So, you know, when he goes and says, if I had to choose dreams over romance, and he goes and says, oh, I pick dreams, well, that's a lie, right? Because, you know, he's doing this whole thing for romance. Rika can basically just see through his act. At the last page of the chapter, their conversation starts to end, and Rika goes and says, you told us to try and make you fall for us. You're the one who lit the fire, you know? We should suppress the sickness before it develops into a fever, right? However, it's already way past the early stage for me. And then she goes and says, so I ... and then the chapter title is No Longer Need Any Cough Drops. You know, it's kind of playing on the whole notion in the beginning of the chapter where Yamabuki was like, oh, you need cough drops because, you know, you're sick. But no, it's not. She's actually sick. She's lovesick, right? And it's also playing off the part in Yamabuki's speech where he's like, the sparks of love or whatever. And yeah, that's where the chapter ends. This chapter was very dialogue heavy. Personally, I think it's one of the most impactful chapters, most plot developing chapters we've had in a while, or maybe even throughout the whole series, right? For the most part, all we've been getting is just the girls trying to get closer to Yamabuki, but this is the first time we've gotten his actual response vocalized in words to them and on how he's thinking, even though it's not exactly what he's thinking. You know, it gives us a better idea, a better direction on where the series is heading. So, for me, who is Apollo? It is just so confusing. If I had to guess, it's probably Shinobu. Off the last chapter, there was a few panels at the end of the chapter where it was like Apollo talking on her broadcast by herself, saying that you were so close yet so far, but I could still like scoop you up with my hands. And during this whole monologue, or, you know, while they were kind of remembering the school trip, you know, it showed different moments. But throughout that whole entire chapter, there were a few panels of Shinobu scattered throughout there. So that's why I think Shinobu is probably Apollo in the situation. Does Apollo win? I'm not sure. To me, off this chapter and off previous chapters, I still think Rika is going to at least win Yamabuki's heart in the beginning of the series, if Apollo isn't kind of like the destined child to win. Destined girl to win. Yeah. You know, Rika was the first girl who got involved with Yamabuki at the beginning of the series, and even throughout the chapters, she has kind of been the most anchored person to Yamabuki, or the one where he can kind of be the most, I wouldn't say like himself, but she kind of gets his mentality the most. You know, off this chapter, she's almost reading his mind, knows how he thinks. She kind of does hint at some things like, oh, maybe she is Apollo. I don't think so in the situation though. I think it's just like all of the girls kind of know about Apollo, what it means to him, you know, as that was like his whole motivation for joining in, you know, the broadcasting club in the first place, right? But yeah, personally, I don't think that Rika is Apollo. And yeah, that's really about it. This video was kind of all over the place. There was like a lot of stuff going on in this chapter. I think it was very important of a chapter, and there was just so much dialogue going on, but I didn't really want to make this video just reading out the chapter. But yeah, with that being said, those are kind of my thoughts and opinions on what went down this chapter. What's to go on in the future? Who knows? Hopefully we get more of a concrete story that just isn't like day in the life, let's just mess around with these characters, but we'll see what happens. To me, this is like the most promising harem series that's come out recently. I did like the Goddesses of Cafe Terrace more. I never covered it, but yeah, it just ended. I liked the way that it went, but it was more comedy centric. It wasn't romance centric, if that makes any sense. So romance and like love and whatever, that was kind of just an afterthought, I feel like, or not really an afterthought, but it wasn't the main focus of the story. With this, it's mainly the romance. That's really about it, man. I don't know, I've been yapping, bro. But yeah, if you like this style of me just going off the dome, just talking a lot more, definitely let me know. And yeah, that's really about it. So I'll see y'all.
I run away into the wild with you. I'm not afraid, there's nothing more to lose. What's one more life?